The party is over. Hey, everybody. My name is JJ. You're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust, back with another dose of economic reality. BX4 News, let's go ahead and get right into it. First, let's get started right here, folks. This is shocking, but not so shocking if you look at the direction of society right now. What people are trying to do to get recognition and get views and stuff like that. A man was arrested for spraying bug spray on the food at Walmart. So you walk through the produce aisle, you see the cucumbers, you see different fruits, different vegetables. You think, okay, I'll probably wash it off when I get home. It's probably a little bit dirty from people handling it, but you don't expect bug spray to be sprayed on your items or on items at Walmart. In this case, a man arrested in Mesa, Arizona, Walmart. For spraying bug spray on foods. And they interviewed a few people. They said it's disgusting. And I agree with what they said. It's not a prank. It's not funny. It's harmful. People could get sick and even worse from this type of thing. So people are so desperate right now for, I think, extra, not just recognition, but a lot of people try to make a living doing these type of prank videos. And the sad part is they get millions and millions of views. Did you guys see the video of the person that went over to South Korea and he was getting up at people's faces, yelling at them, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, like twerking on statues, like religious symbols and stuff like that, really making a lot of people mad because they don't do that type of stuff. You don't see the type of debauchery that you see in the U.S. over in some of these other countries because they're very strict on those types of things and the punishments are very severe. This American ended up getting, I think, several years getting locked up for doing these acts over in South Korea. And there's many other countries where you can look at, and crime is actually very low because they're so strict. So on one hand, you say, yes, we need tougher laws, and we need to stop people from doing all this insane, dangerous stuff. But on the other hand, if it leads towards a authoritarian society, you've got to kind of draw the line somewhere. So there is a way to make it to where things are not so dangerous, where you don't let criminals get away with everything and still make it not an authoritarian society, but it's very, very rare. Party City to close its doors, filing for bankruptcy. The party's over. We've talked about this before. Party City locations were closing down very rapidly. Now it is the end. There may still be some locations open that are liquidating, but it's bankruptcy time, folks. So the party's over. Mixed reactions on this. Some people say it's a useless store because you can get balloons, you can get party supplies at Walmart, you can get them at Dollar Tree, you can get them at Target. So the stores that are unneeded are folding. One of my disappointments of 2024 was the 99-cent store going out of business. I used to run in there and sometimes get an energy drink, very convenient, and it's just going to be $1.99, whatever. Party City, kind of pricier than if you just get these things at Walmart, but a much bigger selection. So that's what you pay for. You pay an extra price for having a much bigger and broader selection. So Party City, goodbye. And some people would say you weren't needed, but what about the people that worked here? They're going to have to go find work somewhere else now. And where's that going to be? Walmart, Dollar Tree, Target? Or will a lot of the ex-Party City employees be social media influencers and go out and do silly things on our food at the retailers, at the grocery stores? I guess I shouldn't say silly with the whole bug spray thing, more like dangerous. Fortune says there's a 40% chance that the central bank will pivot back to hiking rates in 2025. So it's very interesting. They came out and they declared a victory on inflation. They declared a victory. They said, okay, we can cut rates now because inflation is headed towards the 2% target, which it really isn't 2% if you look at the real number. If you use the numbers that were used prior to 1995, maybe earlier, if you use the real numbers that include a bigger basket of goods and services, the number would be much higher. I would say it'd be like maybe triple or maybe even quadruple the official number that we're being told as far as how much costs are going up. I mean, I've seen reports on social media of rents going up 300, 400, which is sometimes 25, 30, 40% a year in some areas. In some cases, landlords just trying to get the people out because they can get more different types of people in there that are basically subsidized in some cases to make more money. So it's pretty sad what's going on right now in this country. But yeah, no way that we believed that they were going to keep on cutting rates, because we knew that the inflation number was actually still rising. Even though it was slowing down, inflation was still rising. Cost of living, price levels were still going up. The rate at which they were going up was slowing, which is what they pointed at as slowing inflation. But when prices are going up, even if it's slowly, it's still not a good thing when the consumer's in max levels of debt, all-time high debt levels, 70% plus people living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by. A big YouTuber had a video out recently, the title of it was, "Most people will be in debt until they die, or work till they die." And it's true, right? Most people either be in debt or work till they die. But this person was not normally that type of person to say that type of headline. Mostly he was just going around. Michael somebody, I apologize. I would have had the video pulled up, but I didn't save it. He usually goes around and talks about different properties, real estate, the real estate market as he walks around his neighborhood, I think in Florida. But that was his headline in a recent video either today or yesterday, and I was like, wow, yeah, that's true. But I was surprised because it wasn't typically his type of video title they'd put out there, even though his title was about how outrageous and how overpriced the housing market is. Other news, though, Bezos, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, reportedly a $600 million secret wedding with him and his new girl. Is she new? Is she old? Maybe 2 years ago. Here's the headline here out of Drudge. That's her. My question is, who paid for these two things on right there in her chest? And is she going to take half his money, or is he smarter than that? Does he have a mutual prenup agreement with her? Anyways, that's the type of thing you see with corporations and what many people would call corporate greed or greedflation, where you have the people at the top, especially the very tippy top, billions and billions of dollars, while the workers are striking, barely scraping by, saying they don't have enough health coverage. Amazon hiring many seasonal workers who don't have benefits, and part-time workers to avoid giving them benefits. Now, some people say this thing should be stopped. It should be regulated. These billionaires and multinational billionaire companies shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's what many people say. Other people say a part-time job is better than no job. A job without benefits better than no job. Right? So where do you draw the line? What do you do? Do you regulate that? Do you demand a top-down approach to what these companies are allowed to do and what not to do? Or should you just be happy that you have any job or income? Same thing with Starbucks. Starbucks workers expand their strike in many other cities now, including walkouts mid-shift. So these workers are trying to make Starbucks feel the effect walking out mid-shift, showing up for work, and it's reported they're walking out as customers are waiting in line. So not a good look if you're one of those employees. Same thing. Some people say you've got to put your foot down as an employee, as a worker, especially if you're in a union. You've got to make your stand to get what's owed to you or what's fair. Other people say, no, you shouldn't do this because, again, you should be lucky just to have a job, right? So there's got to be a median somewhere. There's got to be a line, a fine line that we can walk on this. But I see both sides of the argument. What do you think about these strikes? Are these workers demanding too much? Or should the employers go ahead and give them what they want? But then again, if the employers give them everything they want, they're just going to strike more and more and more. That's the argument, right? I don't have all the answers. I'm just telling you what's happening. Maybe you can tell me down below. What do you think? The strikers, the companies, or should we just find a way to force these companies to do it with a top-down approach, from a regulation type of level? All right, let's talk about the housing market, folks. Price levels, still outrageous, still unaffordability, still at the all-time worst levels. We did see a slight recovery in home sales from September and October. November ticked up a little bit. Let's go ahead and bring up a chart here. And we see November right here. But if you go out to a longer term chart, you see we're still pretty low. We're down to where we were in the housing bust era, 2008, 9, and 10. And you have to wonder, how are these real estate professionals getting by? I've read a report that a lot of realtors and real estate agents are dropping out and moving on, because how can you survive at the volumes being very, very low? But one thing that's interesting, we saw the volumes very, very low after the housing bust. Didn't start really recovering until 2011 and 12, going into 2013. But we've been low now for a couple years in sales. But unlike 2008, 9, and 10, we haven't seen prices drop. Well, we know why. We talk about that here all the time. If you don't know why prices aren't dropping, stay tuned to this channel, because we talk about it a lot, maybe at least once or twice a week. So if you're new or don't know, please make sure you subscribe, because we don't just tell you what's happening. We don't just show you the numbers. We explain why it's happening. And unfortunately, I don't see many other channels really explaining the why. They're explaining what's happening, and here's the news, here's what happened, in the news, but they're not explaining why. They're not giving the big picture. What it is, it's endless amounts of money being created out of thin air. The U.S. no longer on a gold standard, so now markets can be manipulated to no end. Basically, we have an open-ended credit card, unlimited credit card as a company, or as a country rather, unlimited credit card, able to borrow endless amounts of money. Just look at the $36 trillion in debt. There's no limit to it, folks. It can be, you could add as many zeros on that as you want to. It could be 360 trillion rather in a few years. That's the crazy part about it. It's infinity. There's no end to it, because it's all digits on a screen, as opposed to a hard asset-backed system of money like we had pre-1971, where there was actually a gold standard or some limitation on the amount of money that could be created or borrowed. And here's another shocker, maybe not so shocking, because we saw the writing on the wall a long time ago. The central bank admits they think inflation is about to go up. That's how Forbes put it. So we had these rate cuts. They said we're victorious. We won the war on inflation. Inflation's coming down to 2%. But now they're basically admitting that inflation's going back up. Well, they had to admit it, because it is going up, and it's even much worse than their official numbers show, because they don't use all the things that people have to buy, or at least that most people have to buy, just to maintain any decent standard of living. And here's one of many sad stories. A home for a 74-year-old woman who was evicted and left on the road. Very sad, folks. Just pull up a quick screenshot of that here. 74-year-old woman evicted and left on the road. I'll try not to be so negative, so doom and gloom, but these are the types of things coming up here. Look at this. Japan, folks. This is around the world. This is global. This is not just the United States. A change in leadership in January is not going to really help much. Yeah, they'll change a few things to get people fighting against each other, but for the most part, it's going to be higher cost of living. Japan's bankruptcy set to hit 11-year high. Bankruptcies and people unaliving themselves rise as Japan struggles with mounting debt, folks. It's worldwide. The direction is the same pretty much everywhere you look. There's not really any country that's a model for the citizenry being really supported. It's debt exploding, more lending, more spending, and prices going up because the banks, again, are going to be propped up no matter what. So it's going to continue unless something big changes, black swan, or a big change in the structure or leadership. Fortune, there's a good chance, a 40% chance, the Fed will go back to hiking rates next year. Well, yeah, they have to, because what we just talked about before, they're basically admitting that inflation is going to go back up. Something interesting happened recently. Here's how Wolf Street put it. The yield curve uninverts as short-term rates stay put. Longer-term yields are rising, which is how it should be. When the short-term yields rise longer or higher than the long-term yields or the long-term debt, then there's big problems. But we've seen it just play out, not really happening like many people had predicted. Typically, when the yield curve uninverts, that's when you see the big economic drop. But when everything's manipulated, everything's propped up, you can have an economic downturn, but the cost of living still going up. When people hear downturn, they think falling prices, crashing real estate market, prices coming down. But unfortunately, the downturn is continued inflation and more people getting caught under the inflation wheel. Something else, hotel prices. Hotel prices, rates set to rise in 2025, driven by strong demand. Well, you have to ask yourself, where's the demand coming from? Well, it's coming from borrowed money. It's coming from credit cards and people borrowing the money. When credit card companies stop increasing credit limits or just freeze the credit limits or don't increase them anymore or drop the credit limits, it's game over for the economy, folks. This is mostly borrowed money, people shifting debt from one card to another with balance transfers because balance transfers are still available. But when those things are gone, when the debt can no longer be increased and when the balance transfers aren't available, folks, again, it's game over. So when's it going to happen? That's a scary question, because if it doesn't happen, inflation is going to continue to rise, just like many other countries that we saw go into hyperinflation. And we don't want that. We want some sort of deflation correction. But the problem is that usually it comes on the back of some sort of massive banking crisis or systemic changing situation, or even a black swan, such as a World War III scenario. And it looks like the risks on that type of thing with the war thing continues to rise. So we're going to stay on top of it, folks, here financially, economically. Please make sure you subscribe. Come back for more economic reality. And we'll talk to everybody very soon. All right, keep stacking. Bye for now, y'all. Peace.